I'm happy to do so, and I'll say it again. It's very clear, my answer. We don't target journalists. We target Hamas. And we had 3 examples now where Hamas used communication facilities on the top of buildings where journalists were. We surgically hit the target we wanted to hit, not targeting the journalists at all. I spoke yesterday to a journalist who told me that the floor above him was attacked. Why did we do it? And I said, why don't you go upstairs and have a look?
But come on, Mr. Regev,
it was in fact part of the Hamas structure.
Yes, but come on, rockets don't stop at a roof. If you say the antennas are on the roof, you know you've got the intelligence that journalists were all over that building, all inside. It's never going to be precise enough that you can't stop injuring people below the roof, and that's exactly what happened. 8 people were injured, 1 person had their leg blown off. You have to accept that fact.
As far as I know, no foreign journalists were hurt whatsoever. You can correct me if you know different information. That we were surgical, that we took out the target that we wanted to take out.
Mr. Regev, you can't sit there and say no journalists were injured. It's all over the world media today, in every single country. There are pictures of the journalists who you cannot sit there and say no journalist was injured. Those are the facts. In this airstrike, 8 journalists were injured, 1 person had their leg blown off. That is a fact. You can't argue with that.
Oh, you're talking about... First of all, maybe we have a discussion about who is a journalist. And if you'll allow me, I will elaborate on this. There is the Al-Aqsa station, which is a station that is a Hamas command and control facility. Just as in other totalitarian regimes, the media is used by the regime for command and control and also for security purposes. From our point of view, that's not a legitimate journalist like an Al Jazeera journalist or a BBC journalist.
There were foreign journalists, Mr. Regev, there were foreign journalists in that building. There were foreign journalists in buildings near to that building.
None of whom were hurt, sir.
Let me remind you. So what
none of whom were hurt.
So what are you saying? That a local Arab journalist's life is any less than an international journalist?
First of all, let's agree that no international journalists were killed.
You haven't answered my question, Mr. Regev. Are you saying the lives of local Arab journalists are worth any less than international journalists from Sky, the BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, etc.? Please answer the question.
Yes, I will answer it unequivocally. Unconditionally, no. We see all journalists as legitimate people. We know Israel, unlike the country where you're broadcasting from, Israel has a free press. We pride ourselves on having an open and free democracy. The Israeli press is very aggressive. We respect the free press. There's not a question of Israeli targeting journalists. I don't think how you could seriously raise this issue at all. Once again, if you can bring me someone who's a bona fide journalist who was injured,
so
I want to know about it.
You seem to be saying that the Palestinians can't have that free press too. Is that what you're saying?
If you think Al-Aqsa is a free press, then you think Passe in the former Soviet Union is a free press? Let's be serious, sir, for a moment, if you don't mind.
We are being serious, Mr. Regev. The fact is, those journalists were injured. Whether they're international or local journalists, they were injured in that attack by an Israeli airstrike. Those are the facts. In fact, now, just tell our viewers, Mr. Regev, what is now the official... No. Let's just stick to this point. What is now the official Israeli response to the fact that journalists, whether local or international, were injured in this attack? Will Israel apologize for the injuries caused in this attack?
Israel does not target journalists, and I think there are very legitimate questions about Hamas using journalists as human shields. Why did Hamas put its command and control and its communications equipment inside buildings where they know journalists were sitting? They were deliberately putting those journalists in danger, deliberately using them as a human shield, which is, of course, you know, a war crime. You're not allowed to use
Mr. Regev, both you and I know that Gaza is a highly populated area. It's a highly populated area. But look, let me remind you, journalists are not armed combatants. They have a job
but does that mean they can use,
hang on a second.
Does that
I gave you the freedom to ask to answer. Let me just give me the freedom to ask the question. Those journalists in Gaza have a job to get the story out. So please, let's just wrap this up. Explain to the millions of people watching Al Jazeera now why Israel targeted exactly the same building when you knew yesterday that 8 journalists were injured in the same buildings yesterday. You clearly are targeting the media, aren't you? You're shooting the messenger.
Not true at all. That's totally incorrect, sir.
Right, okay. Mark Regev, spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.